Meanwhile, Democrats in disarray. President Trump speaking at a rally in Nashville last night where he touted his election victory. Watch.
The law and the Constitution give the president the power to suspend immigration when he deems, or she, fortunately it will not be Hillary she, when he or she deems it to be in the national interests of our country.
All right, meanwhile, a new Fox News poll shows that the politician with the highest approval rating right now, Bernie Sanders. Americans gave him 61% favorable rating, making him the most popular politician in the country right now. Joining me right now is the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Tom Perez. Good to see you, Mr. Chairman.
Maria, it's great to be back with you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We've had many years of talking about jobs when you were in the Labor Department. Congratulations on your new job.
Thank you.
Tell me your priorities for the Democratic Party.
Well, we need to make sure we're building a strong party everywhere. We have to redefine our mission from simply electing the President of the United States to working to build strong parties so that we can elect people from the school board to the Senate. We got involved in a state Senate race in Delaware, for instance, recently, where the fate of that state Senate hung in the balance. We were able to help that Democrat win and keep the state Senate in Democratic hands. And when you build strong parties everywhere, when you're helping to recruit good candidates, when you're leading with your values and your actions and out there talking about what Democrats stand for, building a strong middle class, making sure that everybody has that opportunity to realize the American dream, that's how we succeed. And that's exactly what we're going to do.
But there's a question right now in terms of where the Democratic Party's priorities are. You make all the right comments in terms of helping the broad America, but your party has been pulled all the way to the left, Tom. So are you going to govern with the Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren type of governance, or are you going to be more moderate like a Bill and Hillary Clinton?
Our party is all about making sure that people have access to the American dream. As Dr. King once said, the best civil right is a good job.
So does that mean 75% tax rates? Does that mean Bernie Sanders 75% tax rates?
That means access to health care for people. That means that the age tax, which is this proposal to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Also, it's an age tax. If you're 50 or over, that 64-year-old who's making $25,000 a year and is looking at a $12,000 increase in his or her premium, that's what the Democrats are fighting for. Health care that is fair for everyone, not a break for the wealthy. This is, if you're an insurance executive, you love the Trump care, the Ryan care, I don't care, whatever they're calling this new plan. And Democrats are fighting for health care. Democrats are fighting to make sure that when you lose your job, if you lose your job, you can get trained to get a better job. And the Labor Department, the budget released today, cuts the Labor Department by 20%, including cutting funding for job training. This president campaigned on, I'm going to help the average person get ahead.
Yeah.
When you cut that funding so that if somebody is a displaced worker, we used to retrain them so they punch their ticket back to the middle class. That was a key to President Obama's success, and they want to undermine that.
Well, Tom, let's face it. I mean, when you talk about President Obama's success, we can go through the economy, and it actually did not perform the way a lot of people wanted it to, below 3% for 8 years. But that's one point. You said Democrats want health care for everybody. That's what Republicans are trying to do right now, Tom. To be fair, premiums are rising this year as a result of Obamacare. You look at Arizona up 116%. So what's the answer there? It looks like Republicans are trying to make sure the broad public has health care.
I think we need to level set here. President Obama inherited carnage, the worst recession of our lifetime. 2.4 million jobs lost. We used to do the jobs reports together.
Yes.
8 years ago, last Friday, over 700,000 jobs were lost. The unemployment rate heading toward 10%. Now the unemployment rate that Barack Obama left to Donald Trump was 4.8%. The economy had 75 months in a row of job growth. And so we're moving clearly in the right direction, clearly more work to do. But, so it's important to understand that. In the Affordable Care Act setting, look at, they said it was a job killer. No, it wasn't. It was a lifesaver. And this particular proposal.
I don't know if it was a lifesaver. There were a number of managers, Tom, truthfully, who cut full-time to part-time, who cut jobs from, because they didn't want more than 50 employees. They called them the 49ers because they didn't want to be forced to offer health care because it was too expensive. That's why they call it a job killer.
But Maria, look, I mean, because we did job reports, we have to look at facts, okay? Not
Those
alternative
are the facts, Tom.
okay? The facts are, since the Affordable Care Act passed, we saw job growth of over 16 million jobs. And one of the sectors that was the strongest sector was the healthcare sector. 2 million jobs gained in the health sector. And could the Affordable Care Act be improved? Absolutely. Anyone who wants to improve it, that's great. But look at what this bill does. This bill will cut insurance to literally 16 million people in the first year. If you are 50 years or over, the age tax is going to screw you. If you are 65 or over, you got $2,000 or so in relief on your prescription drug benefits, that's going away.
Yeah.
And that ask the senior who depended on that $2,000.
And to be fair, the Republicans are also pushing back on this Obamacare replacement bill. They're also pushing back on Paul Ryan. I get that. And yesterday, the House Speaker joined me, Speaker Paul Ryan, and he talked about this. Listen to what he said. I want to get your reaction.
Democrats created Obamacare. Democrats don't want to get rid of Obamacare. Democrats know Obamacare is collapsing, and what they prefer is Medicaid for all. What they prefer is single payer. So we know that the architects of Obamacare aren't going to work with us to get rid of this law and replace it with a decentralized, local control, free market, patient-centered system. That is not what Democrats want.
And this is one of the broader issues, and I really want you to speak to this for a moment, because the truth is, Mr. Chairman, the Democrats have been obstructionists this entire Trump presidency. Look how long it took them to confirm his cabinet members. Look at all of the rhetoric coming out. It's all, we're not going to participate, we're not going to help, we're not going to give any votes. That's not what the American people want.
The Democrats are fighting for core American values. We now had a second set of judges that struck down the unconstitutional ban. We now, you look, if you...
But is that political? Is that all political?
Oh, hell no. When you violate the Constitution...
How is it a violation of the Constitution?
Oh, my goodness.
First of all, the 6 countries, that list came from President Obama.
But ask the Republican judge who struck it down the first time, and you will see Republican and Democratic judges the second time. This doesn't make America safer, and it doesn't make our democracy any better. That is why judges, Republican appointees and Democratic appointees, are striking it down. That is why this president should have vetted his own nominees.
How could he? How could he do a better job the first time around when the Democrats did not confirm his nominees for his cabinet?
Maria, Democrats don't do the vetting for appointees. The Republican administration, it's their responsibility.
What appointee did you want more vetting about?
Well, how about learning about the fact that you have nominees who were benefiting from legislation that they were offering? How about looking at the fact that you had a nominee to replace me at the Labor Department who, was all about making sure that you have lower wages and less benefits for folks. And finally, under pressure in the end from both people on the left and people on the right, he had to step down because they were ready, fire, aim. If I had half the stuff that these nominees had during my vetting, I never would have gotten through it.
You don't like them because they're business people. You don't like the cabinet that's all business people.
Penny Pritzker was one of my closest friends in the cabinet, very successful business person.
Was she a successful commerce secretary?
Absolutely. And you look at what we did as an administration. Again, let's remind your listeners about what the president inherited and what the president left. Again, 10% unemployment. Our economy was heading toward in 2009, 4.8% unemployment at the end of the administration.
I understand those numbers, but there's also 8 years in between there. I mean, you would think that we could see a recovery in fewer than 8 years.
Well, I think we need a history lesson here, Maria. George Herbert Walker Bush hands Bill Clinton a recession. Bill Clinton hands George W. Bush surpluses as long as the eye can see and 4% unemployment.
But Tom,
George
everything
W.
you're saying
Bush,
comes
Maria,
into a wall because America voted for Donald Trump. So at the end of the day, you could talk about you handed me this and you handed me this and I inherited this, but at the end of the day, America voted for Donald Trump. They wanted change. The other issue is all of these agencies have become politicized. I mean, look at former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. She's back in hot water this morning. The government watchdog group Judicial Watch filing a lawsuit against the Department of Justice seeking all records regarding the meeting that then Attorney General Lynch had on her plane with former President Bill Clinton just a few days before Hillary Clinton was interviewed by the FBI. Do you think they're going to find something there?
Come on, Maria. This is the
It's
obvious.
all politicized.
No,
Come on,
Jeff
Tom.
Sessions went before the United States Senate, raised his hand, took an oath to tell the truth, and proceeded to not tell them about 2 meetings he had with the Russian ambassador, one of which took place at the Republican convention.
Why shouldn't he have a meeting with the Russian ambassador?
At the Republican convention
but why
about...
shouldn't he have a meeting with... I mean, this
Maria,
whole Russian
honestly,
narrative fires me up because I don't understand where you're going with it. So in other words, senators and governors and, you know, anybody of any power is not supposed to meet with Russian counterparts?
The narrative is pretty simple. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin were in cahoots
It's not
during
true,
the
Tom.
election.
It's just not true.
So all of those sources from the FBI are
What sources from the FBI?
Making it up.
It was very clear. Even
Come on,
Clapper,
Maria,
Clapper, former CIA director, said there is no evidence of any collusion between Donald Trump and his administration and the Russian government.
Well, you know what? And the investigation.
Clapper said it.
That's why we need an independent investigation. Even Republicans are calling for this. Now, you know, Maria, because you've covered the news, Benghazi, we had 15 hearings. This is about interference.
Do you really
with
want to go to
elections.
Benghazi right now, Tom?
15 hearings, Maria. And this is about interference with a federal election for president. And we need an independent investigator, an independent counsel to do this.
To look at what? To look at what kind of relationship the Trump administration has with Russia? We are doing, but they're already doing that. And even Clapper said at the CIA that there's no collusion.
Oh, Maria.
I'm just trying to be
Maria,
factual here in terms of what the facts are.
Maria, you are not about alternative facts. You look at what Charles Grassley and others, Devin Nunes, are saying about this president, saying he was wiretapped. I mean, even Republicans are calling the president on these alternative facts. Let me
ask you this, because you and I are all about economics. We've always had that in our discussions. Do you think President Obama could have done more? I mean, look at what President Trump is doing, picking up the phone, calling Carrier, bullying these companies. If you do a plant overseas and you don't create jobs here, it's going to be a problem. I mean, he's making the president look bad by being so fast on job creation.
Well, Maria, President Obama bailed out the auto industry. People like Donald Trump said, no, you shouldn't do that. 1.5 million jobs were saved as a result of what President Obama did. So let's make sure we are talking about the full context. And again, you know, Republicans said, let them die, let them go away, let the auto industry die on its own. President Obama said, no, I'm voting with the American worker. President Obama said, I'm sticking up for health care for everyone. And now we see the age, you know, the age.
At Angie's List, we believe there are certain things you can count on.